Director Tom Hackney, Director of Investigations and Homeland Security for the Sheriff's Office. This evening around 6:20, two JSO narcotics detectives were at the intersection behind me, which is Wilson and Fouraker here on Jacksonville's west side. These detectives were stopped at a red light. As they're stopped at the red light, across the street on Wilson, they notice a verbal altercation going on. What they see is a male on one side of the street yelling at least two males on the other side of the street. This is a very heated incident that they're watching. They wait for the light to change, and as they begin to go through the intersection, they notice that the male on the right side of the road, who looks more like the aggressor, who's yelling louder, has actually got a gun in his hand. So they're under the impression that they're about to witness a shooting. With the way the argument is heated, they think what they're about to see is a shooting. They pull their unmarked vehicle over to the side of the road, begin to get on the telephone to call for on-duty unit resources to come around to help them. As they pull their truck over, they see the subject who has a gun in his hand escalate the situation. He takes the firearm, begins to wave the firearm around in the air above his head. His voice gets louder, the yelling gets louder. At that point in time, they feel like the incident has escalated to the point that it is the time that they must act. In order to prevent a shooting from occurring, they approach the subject. As they're approaching him, they see him take the gun from the air and put it behind his back, what we believe is putting the gun in his waistband. As they close the distance to him to detain him to figure out exactly what is going on, he takes the gun again from his waistband, pulls it out, and points it at these two detectives. Well, now they're in fear of their own life, as well as fear for the lives of the subject who are across the street. They deploy their issued firearms. Both detectives shoot. The subject is hit at least 3 times, once in the abdomen, once in the leg, and once in the arm. Fire rescue is called, and he is transported to the hospital with serious injuries. The 2 detectives involved in this case, which is standard for our policy, have been placed on administrative leave. Tomorrow morning at 10:30, I will have some more information as to the identity of the suspect involved in this case, possibly some relationships to a shooting that occurred Monday here on the west side, and identification more as to what went on. I can take some questions if anybody has them.
You said he was hit at least 3 times. Do you know how many shots were fired altogether?
It appears that somewhere between 7 and 8 shots were fired by the detectives on the scene.
There was a van involved. Could you talk to us about the van?
The van involved that you saw at the scene was that of the subject's mother involved in the shooting. She had information that he had become involved in the officer-involved shooting. She came to the scene. Where she decided to place her van was in the middle of the scene to preserve the integrity we left it there.
You said you believe it's related to a shooting on the west side Monday?
Correct. We're still gathering some information as to that. I don't want to discuss it tonight, really, because I don't have full details. Throughout the night, we'll gather that. I'll have that information for you all tomorrow morning at 10:30 a.m. and be able to share that information to tell you how the 2 cases we believe are related.
Do you know age or ethnicity?
This is a black male in his 20s. Again, we're working through. We have his mom, so we're working through to identify the fact of exactly who he is. I'll have his information tomorrow morning as well, and again, any criminal history that he may have.
What about an update on this?
Last check, he went through surgery and is in serious but stable condition.
Are you speaking to the 2 other gentlemen who were being yelled at from across the street?
We would like to lay our hands on them. In the course of all that happened, they did not stick around at the scene, so if somebody knows them or if they're watching or have some information, please contact the Sheriff's Office. We certainly would like to talk to you, figure out what this altercation was about, and determine their involvement with this.
What about
Do you know
the 2
where he
officers
was hit?
involved in the shooting? Do you have their identities yet? Or?
No, these are 2 undercover detectives, and as per course of this, because they do act in an undercover capacity, we're not going to release their information. I can release the years tomorrow that they have in service, that kind of information. But again, to protect their identity tonight or tomorrow, I'm not going to release their identity.
Where was the suspect hit on his body?
He was hit in the abdomen, on the left side in his abdomen, in his arm, and in his leg.
And what kind of weapon did he have?
He had a 9mm handgun with him, which was loaded. It doesn't appear that he fired any shots, but again, still kind of early as we're going through that, through the evidence that we have and make those determinations.
Did officers ever say put the gun down or anything like that?
Tonight we have very limited information that comes from the officers. We continue to question them as time goes on, but there's some legal ramifications about us being able to question the officers tonight. That is part of an ongoing process. I've said this before. There are 2 investigations that go on. The state attorney's office was out here tonight. They conduct their own criminal investigation into the matter. and we conduct our own criminal investigation into the matter. And then an administrative hearing is held after that to determine if the use of force in this case is within policy, within our training, but that's some ways down the road.
Would you consider those other two guys dangerous in any way?
I don't know. I hate to say, I know that he had a gun. I don't know what the circumstances surrounding it were. I mentioned it before. I'd like to talk to them, so I can't speculate as they are.
Any other questions?
How long did it take all this to unfold?
Minutes or less. You know, you're talking about the time that a traffic light cycles goes through. They identify what it is. The actual shooting itself, people need to keep in mind that these things occur in seconds. The decisions that police officers all over the country, here in Jacksonville, have to make in these use of deadly force cases involve seconds, and that's what the officers tonight, the detectives tonight, had to make that decision within a matter of seconds.
We want to make sure.
Justified?
Again, I've outlined two different ways that we'll look at this to make that determination. Standing on the street corner a couple hours after it happened, it certainly is not prudent to make a determination as to that. There are due processes that go through. Both of these are in the midst of occurring, and then the administrative review occurs. After that, then it's fair to give that assessment, but certainly not for now.
We want to make sure.
Did he try running away?
No, he pulled that gun and was not willing to retreat from those two detectives.
We want to make sure our numbers are accurate. Does this mark the 4th officer involved shooting this year?
This will be the 4th of 2015. So tomorrow morning at 10:30, I'll have the additional information for y'all. Thank you very much.